Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar in support of the United Auto Workers here. It's such a key event for us here on our party to be able to support the auto workers. As communists, we have the ability to strengthen these struggles. And so it's very exciting for us to begin to plan and learn a little bit more about what the struggle is about and also how we can best support the struggle moving forward. I wanted to first say also that we will have question and answer after each segment of our presentation, which will include a video, speakers from the local 600 in Dearborn, Michigan, some community building community in your area, the do's and don'ts of picket lines with a wrap up of the work. And then also, so in each one of those, we will have the ability to ask a question. You need to put that in the question answer feature of our webinar, which you can find on the lower kind of middle part of your screen. So once again, welcome everyone. This is really exciting. First, we're going to start with a video from Beck Castro, who is an auto worker in Local 600 in Dearborn. She will present herself.
Hi comrades, my name is Beck. I'm from the Detroit Club and also a UAW Local 600 member working out of the Ford truck plant in Dearborn. Here in Detroit, we're gearing up for the contract expiration against the big three automotive companies, Ford, Stellantis, and GM. So I work on a crew, which is the morning shift. So the line starts at 6 a.m. and it ends anytime between 4:20 to 5:30, just depending on the day. Typically it's the latter. You're usually getting out closer to 5:30. So the only time the line stops once it starts at 6 in the morning is for our breaks. We get 3 10s and a 20, split up throughout the day. Break times are not great because, like I said, these plants are huge. So, walking to the bathroom can take 5 minutes and then you're waiting in line for 5 minutes. Likewise with the cafeteria. So kind of just hope that you can run to the bathroom and get in there and get out back to your station as quick as you can before the line starts again. So there's really no downtime, even though we have these breaks. Most people tend to stay at their station and just lay down in one of the trucks. So working on the line, you have this, they say you have 60 seconds to complete your job. I would say it's closer to 50 seconds. Every truck that comes to my station, I jump inside, which is really awful for the knees, I'll say. I program a set of keys, I connect 2 wires, put the car in park, roll up 2 windows, buckle a seatbelt, and then scan a bag of screws for the next person online. So that's every 50 seconds. This is what my one job is, that is multiple jobs combined into one. Very repetitive movement, and you have to be precise every single time. You really have to pay attention to what you're doing every 50 seconds. And if you don't do a portion of your job right, then you get written up. And if you mess up 3 times in a day, you get sent home and they could suspend you for a period of time. A lot of the other jobs require a lot more physical strength, a lot of pulling heavy drills and stuff down from the ceiling, which is really bad on your back and your shoulders, especially if you're not tall enough. The biggest fight to me right now would be ending the tier system. So how it is set up is that you have a 6-year progression from the time you get hired until you hit maximum pay. So in my situation, I got hired in November at $16.50, roughly. Just an awful starting wage, might I add, for working in the plant. And you know, I've been there since November. I think I'm at like $17.50 now. I am working with people who are making top pay. So the person across the line from me who's doing a similar job to me, just on the other side of the car, could be making $35 an hour. Big priority on ending the mandatory overtime. So when I got hired at my plant, we worked 4 days, 10 to 12 hours, depending on the day, and then plus one mandatory Sunday a month. But in my plant, in the truck plant, they have gotten rid of an entire crew of people, which is our overnight crew, and moved them to the electric building next door, which produces the electric F-150s. So because they made this move, they want to keep production at the truck plant what it is without a crew. So what they've done is they've added another day to our regular work week. So instead of working 4 days, we're working 5 days. That's our normal schedule now. 5 roughly 10-hour shifts, and then we still have that mandatory Sunday every month. So that means 1 day off. Like it's called mandatory overtime, you can't miss it. If you do miss it, then you get marked AWOL, which is what happens even if you take off a normal day at work. Get marked AWOL, and then on your next day back, you'll be sent down to labor relations, which is basically HR, and you'll most likely be written up in some way. They could suspend you for the day, or, you know, it kind of just depends. It's a little loose system. But I hope that I helped give a little bit of insight to what's going on, and there will be constant updates in the next week. You can go, the UAW website is really good at posting updates. Sean Fain has been doing Facebook live streams that anybody can access. People's World, of course, is covering Michigan CPUSA. Instagram will be covering it a lot because we're really getting ready to help with strike support. If you're interested in coming to a picket line, let a district leader know, or somebody from Michigan know, and it would definitely be an experience for everybody. Automotive picket lines are always very exciting. So thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoy the rest of your meeting. Bye.
Thank you, Beck. That was very insightful. I think, you know, it is very exciting to join the picket line, and it's even more exciting when you join when you're at the picket line, you're a worker, and somebody joins you. It's so uplifting and motivating. So I really encourage comrades to make every effort to join, to help with that. Now we'll hear from Steve, who is from Local 600. Also an auto worker there. They produce the F-150 pickups. And so Steve, go ahead, take it away. You're muted, Steve.
Sorry about that. Yeah, thank you a lot, Beck, for the opening like that. You're giving a good idea of what it's like to work on those assembly lines, and they do never stop. And that's one of the things that makes it so difficult. I just wanted to bring a couple of key points about the negotiations. The contracts expire at 11:59 on Thursday. And the main issues have kind of been gone over a lot, but one of the key things is the concept of corporate greed. And this is what the unionists keep talking about. In the last decade, since 2013, the companies have made $250 billion in profits. That's $250 billion. And the workers have seen very little of that. In fact, we've given up money during that period of time. And so the main issues in this negotiation are the ending the two-tier, like Beck talked about, reestablishing a cost of living adjustment so our wages keep up with the cost of living, raises that we've been denied for the last 10 to 12 years. We haven't had a significant pay raise. And then improving the pensions. Our pension folks on retirement haven't had pensions increases in over 20 years. And then also the question of having the right to strike on plant closings. The company's supposed to not do that during the course of the contract, but they violate that in many ways. And so the union wants to take a more aggressive stance to stop these plant closings and the shifting of jobs overseas. And the final big issue is bringing all these electrical vehicle plants, the batteries and all that stuff into the master contract of the UAW, so you don't have another set of two-tier wages where some workers are making batteries that go into cars and they're making $10 to $12 to $15 less than the rest of us. So that's a really important issue. I think one thing I want to make clear is that there's a lot of in the press, there's a lot of talk about Shawn Fain and his aggressive approach, which is true. But it's important to remember that he's expressing the will of the membership. This isn't Shawn Fain just talking about something. This is him expressing the will of the membership. He's been when he campaigned for office, he talked about this, and they've gone out. There's been over 100 actions, demonstrations, practice picketing in the last month or so in support of our contract. And the other thing that's important in this negotiations, which is different, is the transparency of what's been gone on, and a very aggressive approach to approaching the media with the facts about this contract and what's going on. And the result of that is that there's a 75% approval rate for the UAW members. One of the recent polls came out, and in Michigan it's probably about 95%, unless you actually work for the top offices. The UAW has got tremendous support because of what we've done and our contributions to the labor movement. People are supporting us. All kinds of workers are coming up to those of us that wear the buttons and the pins and say, hey, we're with you all the way. So it's really an important thing to look at. I want to make one announcement. At 5 o'clock today, there was an update on the contract. And what has been very good about Shawn Fain is he does these weekly meetings where he says this is what the company has offered. So there's no secrets involved. Everybody knows what the company has offered, what we're asking for. And we're not close to settling, getting a tentative contract. And what's important to understand is there's a real connection between the membership and the leadership this time. It's not like there's going to be a contract that will try to be, it's the best we can do and we're not going to do anything else. No, this is a contract that everybody knows that we're going to fight for. We're going to fight for the best thing that we can get. So in line with that, at 10 o'clock tomorrow, there'll be an announcement on which companies are going to be striking. And what he said today was there will be rolling strikes. All of the big three, the Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler, now called Stellantis, some of those workers in each one of those companies are going to be on strike. Not all of them right now. So the idea is to initiate some strikes, and then if there's no movement, then everybody else will go out. That's kept as an option. And what he's calling for this is kind of it's really calling them stand-up strikes. And this is playing off the theme of the General Motors workers when they had the sit-down strikes. And now it's stand up for America, stand up for workers, stand up for your union, stand up for your communities. And that's what they're asking people to do. So, and there will be lots of opportunities to support picket lines and things like that. Bernie Sanders is coming to Detroit on Friday, September 15th. There'll be a big rally downtown in front of the Ford UAW headquarters, Joint Programs headquarters. So anybody that's in the Michigan area, show up at 5 o'clock, hear Bernie and Shawn Fain and the auto workers there. So I think that this is a really crucial strike, and it's not just for auto workers. Just like the Teamsters prior to us, we're standing up for all workers, and that's what the Shawn Fain continually talks about. Is essentially it's the working class versus the billionaire class, and that's his quote directly. So I think this is something that is important. It's important for our labor movement to move forward, and I think hopefully that through the rest of this meeting you'll get some idea how to support us. But this is This is truly a genuinely turning point in the history of the UAW and also, I think, in the labor movement. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. We have a quick question as to if they want to know was the local 600 Dearborn that initiated the strike?
No. The initial striking, I think you're talking about organizing the union. The initial UAW organizing drive and strike, the sit-down strike, was up in Flint, Michigan, 1935 or 1936, 37. So the very first contract with UAW and the Big Three came out of Flint, Michigan. It was the most important contract in the history of the UAW. Did that answer the question?
I think the question refers more to who initiated the strike. Who's the one that called the strike?
Which I'm not sure which strike we're talking about.
No, the current strike.
Well, the current strike, it's coming out. What's happening is the strikes are called the membership gave an authorization. There's an authorization to strike. 97% of the membership voted to authorize the national leadership. So it's the national leadership of the executive board that will call the strike, not a local. These are not local issues. These are national strikes. So that's in the hands of the national union, international union.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Steve. I just remind comrades, if you have a question, use the Q&A feature of the Zoom. We will talk a little bit more about how to build community where there is no picket line in your community, but in your area. But how do we build community to help support the strike in your area as well? So let's move on to the do's and don'ts of when you approach the picket line. And Roberta Wood will give us a quick presentation.
Okay, hi comrades. Let me start my video. It's such a honor to be here today at this meeting, and I just want to also recognize Rosanna, our co-chair, for it's to show the importance of this meeting that she's taking this role in leading it. Going to picket lines is one of all of our favorite and important activities in supporting our fellow workers on strike. They are the working class heroes of the day, and they're on the front lines fighting not just for themselves, but for all of us. Keeping that in mind, here's a few little things to think about. I think the key word in going to a picket line is respect. Respect is one thing workers don't get either from their bosses or in the capitalist society in general, but we need to respect these workers. In our enthusiasm, we can't bypass the fact that we need to show respect for their union and its leadership. We have to keep in mind that it's the strikers themselves who, it's their event. And they have to be highlighted. It's their strike. So when you get to the picket line, the first thing you should do is ask where the picket captain is and check in with that person and find out, tell them who, that you're there, you want to support, and what would you like to do? Would they like you to join the picket line or whatever? And you can also ask them, what kind of help that they need. Of course, the more people you bring with you, the better. But even if you just bring yourself, that's good. After presuming the picket line captain asks for you to join in the picket line, I think, we use their signs. Their signs have their slogans on them, their chants. We're using their chants because they, are what they have collectively agreed on. We want to, make sure that it's them that controls the message. They've been practicing picketing. They've had, so they already know what they're doing. And I think we need to be, a little humble about that. one of the things that we can contribute, I think, is publicizing this struggle, and that's through People's World. So most people are daunted by the idea of writing an article, and I'm not here to ask you to write an article for People's World. But we are asking folks who go to picket lines to be picket line contributors. And you can do that with just getting a few questions and contributing them to an article or a piece that's going to be written for People's World. If you're interested in doing something like that, please just during or after this call, write to cpusa@cpusa.org. That's cpusa@cpusa.org, and with your contact information. And our editor, John Wojcik, will immediately get in touch with you and talk to you about, give you some hints on how you can contribute without a lot of hassle about being crafting a story. But you will get credit in the article, I think. You also, but before you do that, I think you also want to ask the picket captain before you, is it okay, that you're, contributing to People's World, which is a pro-labor publication. Is there someone that you can talk to? And that maybe they'll ask you to speak to them or to somebody else, or maybe not at all, but whatever it is, we have to follow their lead. And again, if you talk to somebody, and it's okay with them, take their photo, because a nice headshot is always a good way to get, to make a story come to life. Speaking of press, if someone from the press approaches you while you're at the picket line with whatever questions, instead of engaging with them, refer them to the picket captain and let the picket captain decide who they should talk to. And, again, it's their message to craft and control. It's their event. Okay, so I think that wraps it up. Again, I'll repeat the information if you want to be a contributor and get your feet wet in journalism, working class journalism. Just send your contact info right now to cpusa@cpusa.org. Thanks, everyone, and see you on the picket line.
Thank you, Bobby. Really appreciate that. I think it's really important. The issue of respect is very key, and making sure that they are the ones that are, the strikers are the ones who are in control. Then we have a few questions here regarding are Canadian auto workers involved in this strike? And then also, what are some of the main things that the UAW members are asking for? Is there a consensus on of issues? One is I know that Comrade Beck said something about tiers. I asked for when I talk to people about it. So they'd like to know a little bit more about what are UAW members wanting to know. Steve or Beck?
Well, look, I'll take, first of all, in terms of the Canadian workers, their contracts, I think they're called Unifor. They're no longer the Canadian auto workers, and their contracts line up with ours. And there's been discussion between the UAW and the Canadian workers. They have chosen Ford as their target. So they're going to try and hammer out they have a different strategy than we do. So they're going to try and hammer out a contract with Ford first. So that's responding to that. Again, I think the main issues are the tiers that Beck spoke about, cost of living, reestablishing a cost of living, retirement benefits, wage increases, and then protections for job security, so jobs don't leave the country anymore. And then also bringing these electrical vehicles into the electrical vehicle production of the batteries and stuff into the master contract, so that you don't have more of a two-tier. I talked with Mark Grunenberg. We're going to have an article on this, on the issues more clearly in the People's World soon.
Great, thank you so much, Steve. Now we'll talk a little bit more about building community. There's many questions about what, what if you don't belong in a state that has a plant there or a picket line? How can you support the workers? And I think this will apply for the auto workers, but all workers in general that go out on strike. So now Cooper will orientate us on that a little bit. Go ahead, Cooper.
All right, thank you, comrades. Thank you for being here. So number one, a thing you can do is the most effective thing you can do is join the picket line. And so this is a widely felt issue, a widely felt strike. It's going to impact a lot of plants and smaller distribution centers and things like that across the states. So the UAW website is going to have a list of picket line locations. If you're in the New England area on Friday, there's going to be a picket line in Windsor, Connecticut, as well as Mansfield, Massachusetts. That's in the UAW Region 9A section. And so I dropped the address. I answered one of the questions in the chat. So I dropped the address of the Connecticut picket line. That's in Windsor, Connecticut. But also there'll be one in Mansfield, Massachusetts. And so if you're in the New England area, you can stop by one of those two on Friday. But a lot of you folks are going to be somewhere where you're not going to have a picket line immediately accessible. But that doesn't mean you can't help support the strike. Striking workers, when workers go on strike, it's a movement of the whole working class, and the whole working class has to stand behind them. So some of the easiest things you can do, particularly with your local organizations and your local clubs, is develop a strike support committees. And so the way to do that is you want to appoint a person or two people in your local organization to kind of lead up a strike support committee. And the things you can do to show support are building strike support wherever working class people congregate in your communities. So that means at your churches. Oftentimes churches will give some special messages. They'll give special sermons, and they'll pass the collection plate for the strikers, and you can then send that to the UAW. Additionally, building support on your campuses of your schools, your high schools, your colleges, whatever schools you attend. Asking folks to sign the UAW petition, which is on their website, and asking folks to take pictures holding up I support the UAW posters and placards and things like that, and sending them in to People's World, but also to the UAW. And so that they can put it on their social media and show the broad range of support that the strikers have across the country. This also means, if you're active in local politics, this also means getting your city councils to pass resolutions in support of the UAW strikers. This means getting your local unions to pass resolutions in support of the local strikers, and your local labor councils to pass resolutions in support of the council. And oftentimes your local unions and your local labor councils will send monetary donations to the UAW. There's a lot of places across the country that we have comrades that are active in, but don't necessarily have an active UAW chapter. And so the support from local unions in those areas and local labor councils in those areas is going to be critical. So that means showing up to your local union meeting, your local labor council meeting, talking to the leadership if you're not in leadership, getting resolutions passed, and then having that sent out. But the way to ensure that these things are done is to make sure the local organizations, whether it's the local party club or other organizations that you're a part of, have a person or a group of people assigned to making sure these things happen. So developing organized strike support committees and analyzing your local conditions, and finding out if there's sympathetic churches, if there's campuses, and the local unions that can be supportive, and then finding a way to coordinate that. If you develop strike support committees at your local organization, you can please put those in contact with the National Labor Commission. That way we can help guide you in some of these processes, how to get some of these things done if you don't already know. and so that we can make sure that the actions are coordinated across the country. Along with our leadership with Joe and Rosanna, we have a lot of knowledgeable and skilled union members and UAW members in the Labor Commission that can give guidance on how to make sure you're able to build these effective strike support committees in the community. You're a part of, if you're here, you're likely already part of an organization, and so you don't need to wait around for anyone's permission. You can start building support for these strikers in your community tomorrow. You don't need to wait for a blueprint or anything like that. You can meet with your coworkers, your fellow churchgoers, your fellow students, and other folks that you associate with, your neighbors and your friends and your family, and you can build a strike support committee for the UAW right now. And that's what we need. The creed that built the labor movement is an injury to one is an injury to all. And right now, the big three automakers are on the tail end of a decades-long campaign to crush the UAW, crush the working class, and crush the movement towards socialism. And it's going to take all of us to stand up and defend them, whether there's a picket line near us or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Cooper. And you know that we're not going to allow any of that crushing going on, not as long as the Communist Party's around. So anyway, we have a few questions. One is, what is the thinking behind a rolling or partial strike? Somebody want to take that question? Steve?
Yeah, I think the way it was expressed at the contract update was that the idea is that they want to hit every company with one or two or a number of locals going out on strike, and that will increase the pressure on the companies to see that what happens when the workers go on strike. Those will be selectively pulled out so that the effect of those plants going out will have a effect on other plants, so that there will be, parts not coming in. And then if the companies don't decide to come back to the table reasonably and come up with a contract that can be acceptable, then everybody else will go out on strike. That's where there's been rumors of this for a while. And I think what this is it's a step forward in terms of getting all of the workers out on strike. In this case, it won't be every single worker, but it will be workers from every single company. And that's a big difference from the past. And the other thing is that there's a lot of preparation going on. So those plants that don't go out, they'll be holding rallies, they'll be going to picket lines. So they'll be showing support for other workers who are on strike. And that to continue to build the movement, there'll be rally after rally after rally. This Friday is only the first that we're going to see. So it's not it's not waiting. It's not a step backwards. It's a way to try to build momentum for the strike and for the contract.
Great, thank you. Another question is being asked, is the UAW leadership divided along the lines from the previous election? I'm in region 8 and I haven't heard of any kind of preparation.
No. I don't think I think the leadership is united. There may be some still differences, between individuals, but as far as the whole executive board on board with the strike, on board with the method of negotiating, that's unified. I don't have any doubt that there's unity there. There was a number of locals that maybe hesitated, but I have heard none of the idea that somebody's not participating. In terms of Region 8, I don't know what Big Three is down there. I think much of the strike preparation has been oriented towards the Big Three. So if you don't have a Big Three plant, you're not going to see the type of organization you're going to see in Michigan and Ohio and Illinois and Indiana, Wisconsin, Kansas, Missouri, Kentucky. Kentucky is extremely united. They're really solid, and that's a big, huge plant. So the answer is no, I don't think there's any. There may be personal differences, but in terms of any kind of factional or not supporting it, that doesn't exist. It's a united executive board.
Great. And in terms of finding out where the picket lines are and any place to donate for supplies, foods, drinks, can all that be found at the website?
Yes.
Very good. If comrades have any other questions, please use the Q&A feature and ask your questions. It says, who can we contact for help drafting resolutions for our local city council, etc.?
You can contact the Labor Commission, and we can put that information in the chat. But you can contact the Labor Commission for language when it comes to drafting resolutions, whether for your local union, your local labor council, or your city council.
Great, thank you very much. Any other questions? Then we'll move on to Joe Henry, who will give us sort of a quick wrap up. Joe Henry, please use the question and answer feature. Comrades, if you have any other questions. Go ahead, Joe.
Hello, comrades and progressives. I mean, clearly tonight is an amazing discussion that we're having. Here we are as the party. The party was founded in 1919 and played a very key role from sharecroppers, tenant farmers, to the industrial unions. The United Auto Workers, of course, was part of the Congress of Industrial Organizations, that our party played a key role in organizing every worker in the shop floor, from those who were the custodians to those who were working on the line. So clearly we have been playing a role over 100 years in the labor movement. And this discussion tonight is just so very important. So clearly the discussion on being there with the workers on the picket line, working out into the community to help the workers, that is our role. That is a very important role. Communicating with the party, as Cooper had indicated, getting connected with the Labor Commission is very, very important. Things are coming out, of course, through the UAW, and it's very important to follow what the UAW is doing on its site, uaw.org, along with the AFL-CIO. And we as comrades, we as party members and supporters are following their lead, but we're also providing the plus, not only on the picket line, but within the community. There is a narrative that is very clear that's coming out of this discussion. And this is a fight for all workers, a fight for the immediate needs, the immediate demands, the reduction of overtime, the rights in the workplace, the increased time on the shop floor to take breaks, and also reducing the hours of work per week. The call for the 36-hour work week is very important. So it's very important for us to be united, to follow the lead, to follow the discussion that has been promoted tonight, and to take a part. It's our history. It's part of your history as members of the party and supporters of the party. So please engage, realize that this has been our fight for over 100 years. And we know that the UAW and its supporters will win this battle as long as we stay united, both on the shop floor and in the community when we spread the word. So thank you, brothers and sisters. Take it away, Rosanna. Oh, you gotta unmute.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Could you expand a little bit more on the reduction of the work week and have any updates on what that, is that still on the table? Any updates on that? Someone is asking here.
Yeah, that's still on the table. And it should be explained a couple of ways. One is that it's under some part of the it's kind of a workplace protection program, or workplace protection set of demands. So it's both eliminating and trying to reduce the mandatory overtime, and then also reducing the work week to 32 hours for 40 hours pay. So initially a lot of workers were questioning that, but then when the explanation starts to come out, which is that European workers, German workers, I think, have a 36-hour week. And if you look at it, when you work a holiday, you get paid 32 hours you get 40 hours pay for 32 hours work. And so the proposal has been to expand the number of holidays. So they're looking at it from different aspects. But the idea is to reduce the amount of time you get paid without reducing your work. So it's still on the table. Nothing's been taken off the table from the UAW side. And, it may not be something we get this time, but it's important to understand contracts, can build on one another. And what Sean Fain has talked about is this contract is the defining contract, the defining moment for this generation of auto workers. So what we get here is not the end. We're putting the platform down for more advanced demands in the future. So we may not get everything we want. In fact, someone once said, look, if you get everything you want, it means you didn't ask for enough. So we're trying to put this out there to say, hey, this is something we want to look at as a serious proposal. Where it is, I don't know. And, at the end of the day, the membership's going to decide what they want to accept in the contract and what they don't. But that is still part of the discussion.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Steve. There's another question in terms of who has signed on in terms of the support so far. Churches, synagogues, universities, and other unions. Do you know more about that? Steve or Cooper or Beck or anyone?
Well, I don't know who. I know that the UAW is approaching a number of different unions. So I think there's support. The AFL-CIO has been announced support, and I think you're going to see support on the picket lines and the picket rallies from different unions. I know in the discussion in Detroit, there's been discussion with other unions. I do know that the building trades councils in Southeast Michigan have many of them do contract work inside the auto factories. So a lot of times they'll go into a plant and they'll do things that the skilled workers in the UAW aren't able to do, construction projects. And they have said that when the UAW walks out, they're walking out. So they will not be crossing any picket lines. You will not see any trucks going in and out. The Teamsters are very good about that. So there'll be no trucks. There'll be no construction work. We're going to shut it down. So that is support that's being very clearly going to be made.
So it's good for comrades who belong to other unions to be able to reach out and see if their union, in fact, is supporting it. And if not, it's time to reach out and get their union to support the strike as well.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Great. So let's see. There was another question in terms of what are the demands related to healthcare. In terms of the high deductible eliminated or pensions?
Well, one of the demands is, one of the demands was no reduction in healthcare. And the company has never really seriously made an effort to reduce our healthcare. What is a demand, though, is to improve the healthcare for the retirees. And I don't know all the specifics because it's handled a certain way, but that's on the table, is to improve the healthcare for the retirees. So that's one of the economic issues, along with improved pension benefits for the workers. That's there.
Okay. Any other questions the comrades have? Scott, you wanted to add something? You want to lower your hand, please? Scott Marshall. Unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I just wanted to mention that around the country, my understanding is that at local union halls, they had pre-strike events to rally support for the strikers and rally unions around and all of that. And we have a Ford assembly plant in Chicago, and I went to the pre-strike event, and it was incredible. And I think it's a indication of how much support is going to be out there, because there were multiple unions there, and they had it was like a big rally, and people were carrying signs and walking all around the place and making speeches, and including Chicago Federation of Labor Secretary Treasurer Don Villar, and all kinds of different unions. As far as I can remember, besides the steelworkers and SOAR, and there were a lot of us there. There were IBEW was there, Machinist Union was there. I can't remember, but there were a whole bunch of unions there, and I think it bodes very well for the kind of support that's going to be out there. And they were already, making assignments about things that should happen on the picket line and who should be involved in making decisions and interviews and all of that kind of stuff. So I just think it really bodes well for the support that the strikers are going to get.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. There's also a call from the AFL-CIO on the national meeting of unions and community folks tomorrow at noon Eastern, from what John, the editor of the People's World, is saying. And then also one idea was expressed about informational picket lines at auto dealers as maybe possible idea to show some support. So I don't see any other questions. So just comrades, hope this has been helpful to you, but please feel free to, if you have any questions, feel free to either go to the uaw.org website for support, and then also write to the Labor Commission at laborcommission@cpusa.org. If you have any questions, any specific questions, anything that you might be needing some help with, our party's Labor Commission will be happy to answer any questions or help facilitate any other things that will be helpful to show the support for our brothers and sisters on the picket line in not just the UAW, but other picket lines that are going on across the country. And also be respectful is very key. If you go to a picket line, and just show support in however way you can. We have one final announcement from Joe before we sign off.
Rosanna, before that, Bobby has her hand up.
Go ahead, Bobby.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Something always comes out of a meeting, even where you didn't put it in the beginning. And I see two things from the comments that I think we should pay attention to. A lot of people are asking how to find a picket line. And I don't think we've looked, and there isn't a single link. But I believe that us in the Labor Commission will help you find that picket line. Get in touch with us. You can either write to the address that Lori put in the chat, in the question and answer, or you can write to cpusa@cpusa.org, and we'll help you figure out if there is one near you, how you can find it. And there was a few requests for resolutions, which is a very good idea. And I think once somebody passes a resolution, we'll be easily able to share it. So maybe we can be helpful to folks in getting that going. I'm going to put in the chat also a link to.
They can't see the chats, Bobby.
I don't mean the chat. I meant to say that. Can people see the answers? No, or I don't think so. No. Okay. Well,
it's better to spell it out.
Yeah, if you go to the UAW website, then there's a petition that everybody should sign of support. So I encourage you to go to the UAW, that you'll be easily look under the action tab and sign that petition. Thanks a lot, Rosanna.
All right, thank you, Bobby. Go ahead, Joe.
Yes, thank you, Rosanna, and thank all the panelists for all of the great information that you put forward this evening. Very happy to see everybody here. We're sure that we're going to see you on the picket lines and doing strike support. I'd also encourage everybody to follow peoplesworld.org if they want to
list of different places where picket lines are going to be. I know one member of the Labor Commission has systematically gone through the different plants where the UAW will be striking, and so we'll be sure to list those. I want to make an announcement about another issue, however, that in some respects is related, and that has to do with climate change and the growing demand to end fossil fuels. There's a national movement growing in the country to demand that President Biden take action now to end fossil fuels. End it now. And there's a demonstration in New York City on Sunday that's being held in connection with a national, actually it's an international United Nations summit on the issue. And we're going to be part of it. We are gathering with the Anti-Militarism Hub, and we'll be meeting on 52nd Street between Broadway and 7th Avenue. And look for a big gray elephant. This ain't the GOP elephant. This is the elephant in the room, which is military spending. And we're calling on all of our comrades and friends from whatever the part of the country you can come. Most of y'all will come from the East Coast, but wherever you're coming from, we got a big delegation coming from my home state of Ohio, Buckeye State, 15 or 20, bringing 3 or 4 cars from Ohio. Come join us on Sunday. We're going to meet at noon, again at 52nd and Broadway. Join the party YCL contingent. March with us. And if you need housing, let us know. We got a place for you to sleep. You can write to us at cpusa@cpusa.org. Let us know that you're coming, and we'll make sure that you have a mattress and a blanket and a pillow and a lot of warm hospitality. And then I hear on Sunday night, the YCL comrades are organizing, we used to call it back in the day a sing-along. I don't think they call it that now. Some kind of a song session where we got a lot of good musicians and singers and poets, an open mic, and you'll be able to join in and if you want, or you can just sit back and watch or have a beer, glass of wine, and enjoy the evening. So please, if you're on the East Coast, come join us at noon, 12 o'clock on 52nd Street between Broadway and 7th Avenue. Thank you, Rosanna. We're 110% in support of this strike. We want to encourage all clubs, all members, all friends to come out and support the auto workers. Thanks, Rosanna.
Okay, well, thank you, Joe. Just a quick reminder, folks, don't forget to sign the petition at uaw.org. And then also, if you have any questions, specific questions, email laborcommission@cpusa.org. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Let's hit the picket lines. Let's hit that support. Let's show our working class folks that we're right behind them and joining forces together. Good night, everybody.